Thank you, Leanne, for the kind introduction, both to Investy and to myself. I'll kindly request Mutembei to put on his video. The topic today is one that excites me quite a bit. I've been digging into AI for a bit of time. I feel as though I missed the crypto age in terms of I didn't get the Bitcoins early enough. But I think with AI, we're sort of like at the cusp. So it's one of those fascinating topics that I really want to delve in. And, of all the speakers that could have gotten, I think Mutembei is one that has walked the journey around AI for quite a number of years. He's a startup founder, FastAga, which we'll speak about in a second. But he's been at it for, I don't know, Mutembei, is it sort of like almost 4 years or something that you've been pushing through with FastAga, really getting deep into AI. You've already worked with a number of clients, and if there's someone on the call who would be interested, to invest in a company that's doing some cool, amazing stuff in Kenya on the AI space, I think Mutembei is one of those. He's very driven as an entrepreneur, and I've known him for quite a number of years, and so I was very glad that he could make time for this conversation. So Mutembei, kindly welcome. Really glad to have you on board. Maybe you can just start off by just introducing yourself, and then just speaking a bit about FastAga and what you guys are doing at the moment, the kind of traction you've had so far. I think that would be fascinating just for people to understand, because at times when we think about AI, we think about ChatGPT and we think about it at that level. But I know there's some different levels of AI that are happening even locally. Over to you, Mutembei.
Okay, hey, thanks so much, Stephen, for that introduction. Yes, we've been walking this journey for quite some time, from the time when we were being told we are crazy. That's about 2019 is when we formed FastAga. The name is actually a play on two words, fast, meaning speed, and tagging, meaning creating trading data. So our mission has always been how to democratize AI, because right now, as you see, a lot of the AI that's built is, being built particularly outside the continent and outside the context of the continent. So, for example, if you ask ChatGPT, questions right now, for generalized things, it will give you very good answers, but very localized things, it's also give very generic answers. And a lot of times, I think, especially at the beginning, it would hallucinate and, make up, citations and make up things for you. So our vision has always been, how do we get contextual data for the African continent and build solutions for the African continent and give people access to that. And so right now, as FastAga, one of our key products is helping SMEs to scale. And that is working with SME data and being able to automate their customer intelligence and engagement, so that you automate a lot of their process and take away a lot of the hassle that they have, because a lot of them don't want to become data scientists. They want to do their business. If I'm a barber, I want to do that. And so we've built a tool for that. We've been engaging with organizations such as KEPSA, Ajira, which is under KEPSA, Kayana Create. And our whole mission is, how do we use AI to spur economic development on the continent, and also building AI that is ethical and privacy preserving, that's going to respect our culture and our individual rights.
Thanks, Mutembei, and good to hear the kind of work that you've been doing, and that idea of localization of AI, because you're right, ChatGPT is very good when you're doing the big concepts, but it gets some things really wrongly. And the problem is that it doesn't tell you when it's wrong, right? So if you're one of those people who just takes everything hook, line, and sinker, you can end up referring to some things on ChatGPT and it's completely off in this case. Okay, so, I know I shared with you some questions, but I want to take this from a conversational style, because I think we'll get much more of it. So let's just start with some examples of some companies that you've already engaged with. Just give us one use case, because at times, when you look at AI, some businesses asking themselves, okay, how do I exactly use it in my business? Like, I see what it is, I see how strong it is when I do a search for something or when I look for something, but how do I specifically use that for my business? Maybe just try to contextualize for a business, an SME that's doing all manner of things. I'm sure you've worked with a number of them. Just give us some use cases that you work with.
Yeah. So the thing is, even when we're talking about AI and the understanding of what AI is, the reality is AI is very much math. And I think even you as investor, you do a lot of that in the financial modeling. Now it's like taking that financial modeling, a lot of it you're doing manually on Excel, and now giving it a lot of software and predictive power that it really is able to crunch through tons and tons of data and won't hang on your Excel, right? So one of the simplest examples I can give is that, AI is, a combination of linear algebra, calculus, probabilities. And so what we did is for one particular barber, right, is that we were able to ingest their transaction data for, over a year. And we were able to show the person the trends that are happening, in terms of the customers that are coming in, who were their top customers, how much each of them was spending, and when some were likely to drop off. So the person was able to optimize in terms of the engagement that they're doing with the customers. So this is a barber, and this barber is actually now going to be able to open a new store because of now having this clear data and being able to go to investors and say, hey, I actually have continuous business throughout the year. I have new customers coming in. I can come up with new products. So that's a very simple way of looking at it. Another client that we had engaged with, now a completely different thing, is someone who was doing mini grids. And one of the biggest challenges that they were having is that they were having to manually download Google and count rooftops, right? This was a way for them to predict how much energy output the microgrid needs to come up with. And so we were able to use satellite imagery, label that satellite imagery, and build a tool that could automatically count the number of rooftops, check what kind of rooftops, is it clay, is it tin, is it thatched, so that you can see, is there an industrial activity that's going on, see what's going on in that particular region, and then they can be able to say, okay, this is the capacity of the microgrid that needs to happen in this particular area. So that's another space where the AI was used for. Now that's a larger sort of microgrid developer, and then the merchant in terms of the barber. So when we think about AI a lot, right now AI even has gone through numerous different names changing. One of the first times that a paper that in the modern time that we've been talking about AI the first time was at a statistical conference, because what AI really is very powerful automated statistics, right? And you build models around that. And then, you remember the time for IBM in the past when Deep Blue won Jeopardy, and they said that it would change everything. At that time, they changed the name from artificial intelligence to cognitive computing, because people were afraid of the word AI. And that was just around the time Terminator and all those movies had come out, right? Now we've become more, eased into saying artificial intelligence, right? That, these are computing systems which are going to be able to mimic human intelligence. And then today, when we have ChatGPT that came out, the truth is the GPT, 1, 2, 3 has come out since, OpenAI started about 2015, and everybody thought he was crazy trying to build these large language models. And then talk about also, encouraging businesses to use chatbots. That's also something else that we've been doing. And, we've had webinars where, for us, and IBM has been there, and we've been, getting startups to think about using chatbots. And then that's also been one side of it. How do you train the chatbot? How do you help it do something for you? And so there's been these different points where you can talk about AI working. And generally, it's optimization, classification of information. So another organization that we worked with is a large fintech that was trying to come up with credit scoring models. And so what we did for them is we built tools to classify text messaging that they had collected from different clients' phones who had their apps. And then, being able to classify, okay, is this, a text that someone has been betting, Someone has, gotten a message that they haven't paid their loan from someone, and then classifying all that, classifying the shops people are shopping at, and then they use that now to develop. We advise them on creating the credit scoring model. So these are 3 different use cases that I've presented, and you can see how it's quite wide. We also previously were doing a lot of data labeling work, and we worked with South Korean companies who are building computer vision models for detecting whether you're wearing your safety belt. So that was a lot of taking that, image data, labeling it well, like labeling, the pixels which have the safety belt when it's been put, when someone is coming in different angles. And, there's so many different use cases where AI can be applied.
Awesome. I think that's fascinating. Just good to see just how wide it is. Now, maybe we should go back to definitions just a bit, before we move on. And what I mean by that is that, so there's data analytics, there's business analytics, and it seems that a part of AI, from how you put it, someone could say, if I have a good data scientist and they come and they analyze my data and they tell me ABCD, is that AI? Or at what point does it become now AI, artificial intelligence? Maybe just let's start with just that simple one. So that, because many people are doing many things from a data analytics perspective, but they hear AI and they're like, I want to do something around this space. So is that AI, and how does it differ from AI? And at what point does it become then AI? And once we train these models that you're talking about, do you update them every single day? Is there someone who sort of like then has to look at them every single day, etc.?
Yeah. So if we're talking about AI, AI is an all-encompassing term talking about, and we can go back to the early, human beings, we've always wanted to create autonomous intelligence machines. That's what people used to call them back in the day. All these magicians who used to, do these machines which do card tricks or do things like that. So it's an all-encompassing term of having machines mimic human intelligence to do tasks that that humans would ordinarily do, and to help them. And and it requires a lot of data to do that. And so how artificial intelligence has become possible today is that today we have a lot more computing power, a lot more storage, it's much cheaper, and we have a lot of tools that are able to understand that data much better and mimic the way the brain works much better. So this, you're talking about neural networks, so that's, you're going into deep learning. So there's AI, artificial intelligence as a whole. Within that, there's an intersection. You can think about it in terms of a Venn diagram, right? You're having intersecting circles starting to come in. Data science has to be there because you need to collect a lot of data. You need to be able to clean that data. So you have data engineering coming in. You need to set up the infrastructure for that. So that's part of data engineering in terms of like, are you using cloud? Are you using data warehouses? Then now in terms of techniques within artificial intelligence, you have machine learning. So machine learning is a space where you're doing continuously training the machine. You're giving it data, you're helping it predict better, you're building software tools to automate a lot of the processes where it will be learning. So you're using reinforcement learning, which is, you keep on rewarding it every time it understands something. You tell it, okay, imagine a child when they're 2 years, 1 year old, you have that picture book which has an apple and then it's written apple. Then every day you get the kid to look at that again. And so there are a lot of tools. That's what's called training, creating training data. And then you have deep learning. Deep learning is now another subset technique within artificial intelligence where you're mimicking the human brain, the neurons. You are the same way human neurons, you store different information and then you relate that information at a certain point so that you can be able to tell, for example, a cat. So right now, if I look at a cat, whether I can only see its head, whether I can see it on all fours, I know it's a cat. So the way deep learning is working is that you're splitting all that so that at any point, a machine can tell that that's a cat, whether it's only seeing an ear or a whisker or something, then it can figure out, oh, that's actually a cat I'm looking at. So artificial intelligence is an all-encompassing space, but that needs data scientists, needs machine learning engineers, needs machine learning researchers, needs AI researchers, needs data engineers. So if you're, as you were saying, if you have a, if you're setting up a team for building artificial intelligence, and that's your particular focus, you'll definitely need data scientists, right? To clean the data, to start looking for how they can decide whether there are actually about 5 particular things that if you're thinking about doing machine learning that or AI that you need to always think about, right? And this is, you know, whether there's enough volume of that data. Is there now a large enough of data that you actually need to do machine learning and artificial intelligence, or you can just do regression? Is there enough variety of that data, sufficient data that will be put through the training of the AI? Is there enough velocity? Are there enough, is there enough relevant data being produced to update that model over time, as you mentioned? Is there veracity? Can you, know the accuracy and believe the data that's coming in, right? That's where data engineering comes in of cleaning that data. The value of the data, is it valuable enough, right? Is, what is the impact of that data on the business? Sometimes, we keep on having that conversation about correlation and causality. Is the information that you're bringing in actually going to make sense for that particular business? So those 5 things are very particular to think about when you're thinking about AI in terms of data. So I think I've talked a bit more, but I think the bottom line is AI is a general term for how to build machines that can do things that human intelligence can do, and then you have different techniques within that. And data scientists, business intelligence, all that are spaces that can be enhanced by having those machines that can mimic human intelligence and can work with vast amounts of data and produce things much more accurately.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so from the conversation, I'm seeing 2 key avenues, right? And I've looked, some of the people who've attended, I've seen we have some lawyers, we have some people who do advisory for SMEs, I've seen some investors and so forth. And the 2 models or the 2 avenues I'm seeing is, one, there's an organization that has, sorry, there's a bit of feedback, I don't know if it's my side. Okay, very good. I think there's an organization that may have a lot of data, right? Maybe it's a bank, maybe it's one of these online lenders, digital lenders, right? And they want to automate something around this from an AI perspective. Maybe it's to be able to better tell, better do the credit scoring. There's that kind of an organization. Then I see another one, which is I'm just an SME, and I've been using ChatGPT for argument's sake. Let's just use I've been using ChatGPT, and I'm fascinated by that. Of course, there's so many applications which have already come out right now. I think if for lawyers, I think in the US, there's I think specific AI that's been trained on all the laws, and there's a startup that's actually offering $1 million for someone to go to the Supreme Court and argue a case, using an earpiece, and the AI will tell them exactly what to say at any one point, which is really fascinating, right? So there's someone who's looking at this and saying, I don't have enough data, but I'm asking myself, okay, what are some quick wins I could do in terms of just moving myself forward? ChatGPT is one; it's a big sort of like kind of module. But what are specific things I could do? So I want to maybe start with version 2, and then we'll move to A after that. So 2 of B being, what are some quick wins that you would advise a business, right? That they could start harnessing on AI. Some interesting tools that you've seen, some interesting applications. Because at the moment, it's ChatGPT, then there's nothing, there's a void in between, and then there's you, and you're like, okay, what do I do to be able to do this? And then we'll move to the second one of someone who's saying, okay, I want to train a model. What do they do? And thank you supporting those kinds of services. Over to you.
Okay, so I think already a lot of people here, and the fact that they're interested in this topic and coming on call has probably tried things like ChatGPT, right? And so, for example, if you're trying to figure out a design process for your startup or your company or your business. You're trying to create some creative content. There's a lot of tools out there that you can already start using. So for example, Copy AI, if you're coming up with copy and you want to, this was even before ChatGPT and was actually using a previous version of GPT. I think that was about 2.5 or 3. So in terms of, if you're in the creative process, you want to create content, then you can use a lot of these tools such as Copy AI. If you're designing, of course, Adobe has come up with that Adobe Magic. You can be able to do a lot with that if you're a designer. If you're doing things such as design, again, you have Canva, which can help you automate building up even your posters and things like that. You don't need to now hire someone else separately for that. LinkedIn itself is actually coming out with another AI for generating your content. If you're someone who's designing, so for example, if you want to, there's PDF GPT, where now you can put in your PDF and then you can ask for certain insights. It's very easy to check what's going on with your particular business. In terms of, if you have a large PDF file that you want to get summaries from it, you can also use ChatGPT for that, but there's also PDF GPT for that. Then there's also a lot lawyers, of course. You can be able to just speak into, there are different AIs that are coming up right now for text to speech, speech to text, translation. So a very even easy thing is like when you're trying to translate different documents, people don't think about this, but Google Translate is actually using AI, right? So this is the other thing that a lot of times you think AI is like some completely separate thing than what we've been working with. There's a like every day there are new tools coming out, talking about so there's video to recipe. There's even like convert YouTube cooking into recipes. Actually the one I was talking about is called Chat PDF. It's called Chat PDF. So you can now have your PDF having a conversation with you. There's now website creation tools. So you can generate your whole website. It can be hosted, everything. You just need to say yes on certain things, and then you have your whole website that has been generated for you. I was working with that as well. You can use it to get ideas, and then you have your whole website built out for you already. You have something called Mara solution, which is an AI review reply assistant. So there's a lot of tools. I think in terms of tools, there's so many that are there right now and every day there's another one that's coming up. So there's something called collab.com, which is a contact center software, which now helps you with your customer support as a tool. There's Flowrite, which is an email assistant. But again, even within Google right now, you can, or in the Microsoft environment, you can use Bing for that. You can use Google to work on your tools. There's, if you want for writing, there's a auto-write app, which helps you to write. So there's just so much stuff. Like
so Mutebe, let me ask you, let me just jump in there. And I'm hoping we'll get, I don't know whether you have a list somewhere that
yeah, I have multiple lists.
Okay, if it's something you can share for the people who are attending the conversation, that would be very useful. But I guess the bigger question for someone would be like, so how do I check to know that there's a tool for this, right? Is there a database somewhere that someone's updates? Because I guess it's the day-to-day challenges you encounter. Is there somewhere that I can just go and find sort of some interesting AI tools that I can use? Yeah, so there's really interesting. So I'm going to share it right here. So there are very many interesting. Let me just talk to one. Yeah, and as you do that, I guess the other question that someone might have is, I mean, it seems like it's a gold mine of opportunities, right? Because everybody is creating a tool. Businesses are creating tools, and what we don't want for the continent is for us to continue with the consumption culture, where we sit back and we sort of like just keep on getting different pieces of information that we use, and we're paying software as a service $10, $20 per month, whatever that might be. So I guess the other question for you, and we'll be pivoting back the initial conversation, the initial version A, what I was talking about, is okay. How do I go about if maybe one is I want to create an AI. I want to train an AI to do certain things. There's certain things I do within my organization and so forth. How is that process? Is that something that you support with? Are there any organizations that support with that kind of process? If I want to just have a conversation and say, our SME does 1, 2, 3. I've been seeing that we could support other SMEs to do something similar because we have a lot of data, we have a lot of experience in the space, and we wondering whether we could create something. That kind of conversation. Who can I have that kind of conversation with to be able just to get a better sense of that? I think there's that one, which then would naturally move to the second idea of just how do you create tools around this. So I'd like you just to speak about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's something you have to speak about, which you just
so while tools, so that's because what people have created right now is lists and blogs on Twitter or so many places where you can keep access. So I found this one pretty useful because they have an Airtable, they give you like so many, so they have 99 different tools which are there that are being used. Though the thing is, this is a space that's moving so fast in terms of people creating tools. Like, this one's already a bit outdated, but it's a good place to start. People making now, for example, for professional, photo shoots, you just put your image on a website and it gives you like hundreds of different pictures, professional pictures in different positions, different places that you can use. And that's coming out. These are things that are coming out every day. And people are experimenting mostly on the large language models such as GPT and from OpenAI. I think coming to your question about building models up, that's something that we already do in terms of consulting with people in terms of helping them build up models based on the data they have, right, and see what they can do. So we've done this all the way from figuring out whether you have data, training that data all the way. Right now, a lot of big companies are actually banning the use of ChatGPT for a lot of things because privacy-wise, it's all your information, is going to. I think now you can, somehow switch that off. But people like Samsung, even here in Kenya, Liquid Telecom were told like they can't use it for official stuff. Don't put in your documents and such because of the privacy thing. There are a couple of companies that are coming up now building privacy preserving environments. Banks, for example, won't ideally will not touch, ChatGPT of trying to build their tools within that, because again, if you have leak of people's like private information, then you're going to be in problem. So we are working with like a UK-based company on like building like very privacy preserving environments where you can actually do a lot of machine learning and AI work as like big financial institutions. So that's something we can definitely help with. Organizations can definitely also do that for themselves, but getting senior machine learning or AI research, data science talent is not the easiest thing. You can find junior talent, people who are just being trained. But finding senior talent. So for example, for us, we have people who've been doing it for quite a number of years on our team. And so that is always the challenge, getting that talent to do things for you in the business. But there are all these tools that can be used, even for generating presentations, right? There's now AI where you just put in a prompt, comes up with a whole 10, 20 slides for you. You just need to go and present it. And you can do this even with ChatGPT by asking it to give you the macros for putting into your into your Microsoft PowerPoint and you create it. Yeah. Or even financial models, right? And even analyzing your financial. So if you're not so worried about privacy, then you can definitely use the platforms that are there right now. Right? If you're worried about privacy, there are now other tools that Databricks just acquired a company called Mosaic ML, which has like privacy preserving environments where you can actually, do that. Of course, there's a cost to that as well. But I think instead of only thinking about using a lot of these tools and not doing things from the basic, right? So because there are a lot of really basic things that can be done. And I think even as Investia, you're very positioned to actually do a lot of the the initial things that people need to be done. Because to actually have a machine learning model that makes sense, you need crazy amounts of data, and you need a lot of data coming in. And that's why it would make sense to have something like a machine learning a model, because that takes a lot of investment to build. You could use Excel. It's super powerful tool. And actually Excel, of course, Microsoft is adding a lot of, they're the ones who've invested into OpenAI. So they're adding a lot of intelligence to the tools, which are privacy preserving as well within Azure. So there's also a lot of basic stuff, as we are saying, data science that can be done to prepare your data. And then when you have enough of it, then you can use machine learning. But then now there's a whole space of generative AI, which is generating, content from a lot of data. Now that's where you're finding a lot of people are training, GPT, using GPT-4 to train their machines. You can pay for it. I think right now it's about $20, I think, a month, and then you can give it information, and then it can be able to answer based on the information that you've been giving it. You can, it's something that's usually within the space was called like you're adding training to it. It's already been pre-trained, because a lot of that's what GPT means, right? Generative pre-trained transformers, right? So it's already been trained on basics, and then it's like being taught how to read, and then you're just giving it more books, right? And then asking it, okay, from what you read, could you give me a good summary of something, right? And then that's what GPT is really powerful. Yeah, generating that new data, new text, new imagery, new sound, new music. Some people, what they're doing is while you're writing your thesis, like in school, you just put it into one of these platforms. I think it's in that Wild Tools, where you put in your text, a whole book, and then you get an audiobook designed for you. Then you just be listening to it. So I think definitely on the side of consulting. On the side of consulting, that's something we do. We've been, working with people also in the health space, and then also other organizations. But then now our particular product right now for MSMEs is like those ones, especially who are like less than 10 employees, can't afford to have a data scientist, can't afford to have a software developer within that to automate things. So we built a tool for them. So where we just ingest their transaction data, whether it's from their CRMs or whether it's from their POSs, and then we produce really good, strong reports for them. And then now, based off of that, we build the automation tools for them, right? And so that's actually something, we're providing early access to that, and maybe I can share that later on, the form for the early access. And so, that's something that we're building, now that's for MSMEs. And then that's a tool we built for MSMEs to take care of that for them. And then now as they mature, then that's where Investia comes in to do the financial modeling and other things.
Okay, no, thank you. And please do share the link. I think that would be something that's very useful. Okay. Now there's a few questions which have come in. And I'm just going to pick one of them. I think it was addressed directly to me in direct message, so you probably haven't seen it. And you mentioned about privacy, right? And maybe we should ask, maybe just to be clear, so anything you feed into ChatGPT is like you're feeding your stuff into Google. Is that the case? Just to know, because people use ChatGPT like just because I've logged in, it's my own data.
No. All that
and maybe the broader question is not just ChatGPT, is what's the role of privacy? As in, how should you deal all these platforms that you've mentioned? I mean, these are a company that has come together, has put in a platform. When I'm dealing with them, what are some, how do I need to think about how to preserve, to think about privacy in this case? Because, you could submit a client contract, for argument's sake. Is that allowed? Like, or would that mean that then that becomes something that someone else is going to feed off from, or something that I'll find being downloaded the next day? I'd just be curious just to hear what your view from a privacy perspective before we go to the other bigger fear that everybody has.
Yeah.
Whether we're all going to be replaced.
So right now with platform side, so ChatGPT, now you can go into ChatGPT and then you can switch off like when you ask it questions, you can switch off whether that it's going to take that data and use it for training. But generally, and then so it will be only for your particular terminal. But they usually make it hard for you to get to that sort of pattern, right? So you have to look for it, because at the end of the day, all these million people in, I don't know, 5 days at the beginning, all those people, all that you have put into ChatGPT, all that is now ChatGPT. OpenAI's, they now, it's Microsoft's. They have that stuff. Whether you put in legal documents, or it's now theirs. Like they took it. They didn't read the terms and conditions, because it's being used to train the platform. And so anybody else in the future who uses ChatGPT is drawing from whatever that you had put in there. So if it was company secrets that you put in, yeah, someone else is going to benefit from that. And that's why companies like Samsung.
So Mutembei, just to interject there. So AskGuest thought that you were getting these free tools and you were having such a wild ride. And Microsoft was just like, keep sending the data, keep sending the data. If anything, they probably the model benefited much more than we did individually.
Oh yeah. And so if it's free, then you're the product. So that's usually the conversation. So yeah. So with privacy, actually yesterday I was at a Mozilla event where, you know, for us, as we said, if you look at our website, our number one thing is, you know, building privacy preserving ethical AI. So a lot of what we are focused on is like, how can we work with people in a privacy preserving environment, and make sure that, this, whatever insight and whatever everything's coming, it's particularly for you. If you do give permission to share with others, because if you have an Android phone, you're sharing that with Google every day, all your location data, all your everything, even Apple to some extent. But that's how Apple eventually won, by saying that, you know, we are, you know, it's only us and you, and they don't allow a lot of third-party people coming in. For us, immediately from, you know, from the day one, even before the data protection laws were created, we were there working with, you know, different players to understand the drafts, you know, and immediately you could be able to get registered. We already are we are registered as a data controller and a data processor with the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. And the reality is, if you are an organization that has a lot of client data, which could be personal identifiable information, meaning names, numbers, names, you know, you need to also register with the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. You need to come up with your privacy policies. You should need to come up with your data sharing agreements. And these are things we've had to work, and lawyers, you guys are enjoying life right now because we've had to spend quite a bit of money with lawyers having this, because that's also something that you need to think about. Yeah.
Thanks, Mutembei. So I guess privacy is big. Make sure you read the T&Cs, and if you can, you know, please go to ChatGPT today and switch off the ability for it to take all your data and use it going forward. Now, we're almost finishing, and you know, I feel like we've just barely scratched the surface. Hence the point I was mentioning earlier, that we need to be having this as a podcast or something, and we keep having the conversation, because there's so much about AI that's changing on a day-to-day basis. Now, one question. Now, there's someone called SC. I don't know who SC is. I'll imagine that's senior counsel. I'll imagine it's a lawyer. I don't know whether it is. The question is, so of course, there's all of us people in this knowledge economy, right? You know, I was just having a conversation with some people, and there's a few things that came out. If you look at doctors, there's a startup like I think Beyond8, which what they're doing is, you know, you walk into a hospital, you don't really walk to a hospital, you go to a website, you describe your symptoms, and it's like you're having a conversation with a doctor on the other side, and they ask me, how are you feeling today? I have a headache. Do you have a sore throat? I have a sore, blah, 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 blah. Then, and I was so fascinated, the startup founder was telling me that out of the people who come to their platform, only 30% eventually have to go and see a doctor, because the other 70%, their cases are resolved through an AI, and they've been able to sign on insurance companies that are willing to use, you know, the prescriptions or the consultation report from the AI to, you know, and pay for that. And then they mentioned that of the 30% that remains, only I think 20% have to speak to an actual doctor And then the other 5%, they'll see the doctor, then they'll go on and do some physical tests. That's healthcare. If you look at, lawyers, I spoke about the AI that's dealing with the lawyer side of things. I think finance, there's so many sort of like AI which have been thrown out there. E-learning, there's content now. Like I think one of the applications that I found very fascinating for learning, I was looking at a tool which was for young kids, where rather than you teaching your child sort of like big things, you submit sort of like content, and then it will sort of like design questions, and you tell it the age of the child is sort of like 5 to 7, and then it will design questions specifically for your child, where then they'll be able to interact with the AI and ask specific questions that get answered. And as they're doing that, they're learning on that specific content. So I was like, oh my goodness, teachers are going. So I guess the question is it true? I'm just gonna ask you directly that we should start retooling. All of us should be either AI, computer experts, AI experts, being able to communicate with these large language models. We should start doing things with our hands, plumbers and farmers. We should start getting this professional services world, because in the next 5, 10 years, 20 years, things are going to look very, very different. And my last point is that I had someone who say that just imagine that this is the worst AI is ever going to be, right? If there's one thing we're sure, it can only get better. So the stuff that you say, oh, but it doesn't do this, just give it another 6 months and you'll be shocked what AI can do. So
yeah. No, I like that. I love that question because people keep on asking it. And I think this is something we've been thinking about since maybe 2018, 2019, right? When we were starting, right? 2019, I was in an MIT class with, researchers from the computer science and artificial intelligence, lab out of there, people who are the ones who have built the foundational, mathematical, breakthroughs that have led to computer vision and stuff like that. And the interesting thing is that class we had, a student at Tokyo University who was, his major now was robotic surgery. We had another startup that they were doing robotic painters. So as you're saying that we should become plumbers, man, that's gonna go as well. But I think the idea now is that so there's these two ideas about AI as an autopilot and a co-pilot, right? Autopilot is that now, for example, on a plane right now, that's also a mixture of AI, like in a certain form on a plane is right. You still need the pilot a lot of times right now, where the AI is a co-pilot to make it, to make sure that it's making the right decision. So I think in future, what we are going to be having is that the people who are going to become a bit obsolete and probably lose jobs is the people who can't work with AI tools. The people who are going to, their production is going to be enhanced and they're going to be able to be a lot more productive and do a lot more things and save more time are the people who are able to work with AI tools. So I think the retooling we need to have is being able to understand these tools and how we can leverage on them. The same way, if you did not have a hammer and you had to nail, to put a nail in the wall, the idea is, the person who's using their hand is probably going to be the worst sort of builder. The person who uses the hammer or the power drill is the one who's going to be a lot more effective. And so AI is similar in terms of a tool that we need to figure out how we're going to be using it really well for our different professions. And so I think that's where we need to go. And for example, it's actually pushing us to more fundamental things. Yesterday, we were having a conversation with a couple of AI people at Baraza Media Lab, and the interesting one interesting story was coming up of the way one of the panelists is a lecturer at Strathmore University, and the thing is they were talking about a research that was done that when they decided that, okay, people are using ChatGPT too much for their papers, they decided, okay, let's test people on their basic skills, most basic, not even this university level. People failed. That means we've actually been doing education the wrong way. We've been telling people, oh, do this paper, do this, whatever, but we've failed to give people the basics. So we actually need to come back, and the conversation went back to what was the original idea about education? Was for people to be able to think, right? To come up with the new things, right? So the people who worked really, really hard and came up with the breakthroughs in AI, that's actually what we should be aiming to get our young people to be able to think. That's what the aim of education is. And then now AI becomes the tool to now help you do things faster, right? And to make those breakthroughs faster. There was a time I was talking to a reporter who was really trying to make me say that we will all lose jobs. And I was telling them something interesting. So they were actually asking me about the Rift Valley, right? Where we've seen the mechanization happening on the farms and people burning the machines and saying they're taking away their jobs. But I was thinking, okay, if because of the drought in Kenya, people at Calro and ILRI were able to use AI to discover more drought-resistant seeds, right? We'd have more access to more farmers being able to have their livelihood on the farm. And two, even more scientists now, for all those varieties that have come out that the AI has produced, they would now need to continue research into how those new varieties will work. They'll need to plant them, they'll need to monitor them over a period of time. So we'll actually need more researchers being created and having jobs because of the increased productivity that AI has done by helping us make breakthroughs much faster. In businesses, right? Being able, so for example, when we started this particular tool that I've shared the link to, right? So it was KEPSA who literally reached out to us and saying all our businesses are having a lot of challenge because of COVID and they've gone online. When you think about the sales funnel, usually you're being bombarded by, especially if you're on social media and you've done a really good marketing strategy, you have very many people at the top of the funnel who might buy, might not buy. But if you're not able to engage all of them, then you wouldn't know who will come down, right? So let's say you have 100 potential people, right? And then you only have capacity to answer 5. You've lost 95, and out of these 5, maybe the people who are serious are 2. And then you have very good conversations with the 1, and then you've lost 99 people. So when we're talking about automating in terms of like the chatbots, which are more intelligent, they can have conversations at the beginning with all those 99 very natural conversations, and then you bring them all down to increase the number of people who can actually purchase from you, and then you re-engage them. And that's what our tool is all about right now, right? You're talking about doctors. One of our clients previously was requesting us to help them with, how they can build an AI to help doctors, because this is actually a tool that's helping doctors, the one that you have mentioned at the end of the day, because the challenge with doctors is they can't see everybody. We don't have enough doctors to be able to see everybody. So it's not that the doctors are going to lose their jobs. In fact, we are helping them because we're helping them to, manage their time and see the most important. That client wanted also help in terms of, building a tool that like a huge portion of a doctor's time is in recording the symptoms you have and all these things, right? So this AI that the co-founder you talked to, if they could actually come up with a way where, like, you're building histories of all these people who've come onto the platform, right? And whenever now they go to the doctor, they actually go with their history and say, hey, this is what I've actually been having on the system. I've been having questions, and then the doctor can make a better decision. AI as a co-pilot is helping, as a tool is helping, and that's the way I see it. I don't see us, if you don't figure out how to work with AI, now that becomes an issue. But there are also situations where you actually don't need to. You can be able to do the things pretty well, but your productivity will be enhanced if you take it as a co-pilot, where it can enhance your productivity. That's my take.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation we need to go on because, the fear has not yet been cured on my side. There's still other follow-ups that I have in terms of what the fear would look like. But I like what you say that at least for the time being, use AI as an as a co-pilot, not as an autopilot, and that's definitely going to support you.
Yeah.
So, I have only 3 minutes. I'm wondering what's a befitting question to ask as we sort of like look for part 2, because we have to have a part 2 of this conversation, and a part 3 and a part 4. I think you've spoken about the tool, which I
Okay.
think is very useful. I think we're going to have a look at it and we'll share it widely shared with us well too.
Mhm.
Maybe let me just ask you from your perspective. Do you want to speak a bit about Fast Aga, just maybe in closing, how people can get in touch with you? I think you've mentioned just a few of the things that people can engage you on. Probably you can mention more things that you feel that business can engage with, because rightly so, there's people who just don't know how to engage with AI. And having someone like yourself who's spent quite a bit of years trying to figure these out and created tools, I think it's very useful for businesses. So I'll allow you to do that, and then you can have your parting shot, and then we can close, and we'll look for you for a part two.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Stephen. Yes, we've been working in this particular space since 2019. We've done a lot of verticals. We've worked with remote sensing data, satellite imagery. We did a program with Airbus on that. We've done a lot of creating data, like training data for AI, for fintechs, for a lot of computer vision, autonomous vehicles. We've done a lot, and now our real focus is how can we use. We've found a very particular niche of how AI can be used, and in all its varieties, whether it's the data science part, whether it's the machine learning part, can be used for small and medium enterprises, especially also micro enterprises. How do you help micro small enterprises scale using their data, and how do you help them understand their customers better and to engage them? So the problem was twofold, right? We have a lot of businesses that don't have visibility into how many customers that they're having all the time, how who those customers are. There's Baba, who, when we engaged with them, we did a historical analysis of their transactions and the people based on their on the payment data, and we realized that like a year ago, they had customers who they don't even know today because they never reached out to them, right? They were having 100 customers a month. The person didn't know they were having 100 customers a month. They didn't know how to get in touch with them. They weren't personalizing well. I don't know if there's anybody on the call from Naivas here, but we should probably talk, because I think one of the things that a lot of people have told us is a problem is that the spamming of a lot of these companies. It takes very little to figure out how to personalize engagement with your customer, instead of spamming people on things that they never even bought at that particular shop. And you understanding their habits of when they're usually coming, right? So this particular barber, we got them to understand, oh, people are coming, this person comes every week or every 3 weeks or every month. When they are not, when you find that they've not come for 2 consecutive time periods that they usually come, send them a discount. When they did, they were supposed to come. Don't just bulk send to everybody. Understand how much this person has been spending at your company, so that, oh, if this person has in a month spends 20,000 versus someone who spends 1,000, and you're giving everybody the same discount, is that making sense for you as a business? Are you retaining your top customer? One of our clients, the challenge they had was, because this is Nairobi and business can be crazy, is that their person who's at the front of the shop was actually bringing their own stock and selling to their top customers. They had no way to have visibility of understanding that, right? But by analyzing the data, they were able to see that. They were able to say, oh, hey, this is actually my top customer. Why is the amount that they're paying reducing? I mean, someone else is bringing their own stock and selling it. So we're solving very interesting problems for micro and small SMEs, enabling them to increase their sales and increase their impact, and then retain their customers more. Because it's much easier to retain a customer than to actually go and find a new customer. And that's been documented multiple times. So we built a very simple tool where the business doesn't have to have a data scientist and keep on thinking about this. We automate the generation of the report. Then based on the report, we take actions. And at the end of it, we tell you, hey, your business grew by this %. You increased income by this %, you increased sales, you increased customers by this amount, you retained people. And so very simple. It's like bringing the power of Amazon, but for small businesses. The way Amazon hires like multiple hundreds of data scientists and paying them $200,000 a year, how can we bring that technology to its most basic level to help micro and small enterprises? And so that's what we're doing. Yeah, and I'd love to engage with more businesses to, right now we've started working with the micro, small, medium. We are also able to work with larger businesses. In fact, if you have very, very proper POSs and such, we can even help you even more because there's a lot more insight that can be understood from that data. Yeah, and that's my small pitch right now.
Amazing. Mutembe, thank you very much. I'll ask everybody just to show some appreciation. We like finishing on time. If you could use one of the emoticons just to show Mutembe that you are listening in. Mutembe, as I mentioned, we work a lot with the SMEs and corporates, and we are sort of like a B2B platform. So, this is a collection of clients who work with and SMEs who engage with. So I think people are appreciating that. I think for me, my parting shot would be what you mentioned towards the end, that we need to use AI as a co-pilot, right? I like how you made it very visual. There's a guy using a power drill and one person using their hand to push in the nails and the screws, right? Or using a knife sort of screw. There's one person going to be more efficient, right? So I think AI is that for us from a professional perspective. We're definitely going to have you again, because I think we've barely scratched the surface. There's so much to unpeel from this conversation. Asante sana, and thank you everybody for joining in and for the questions that came in the chat. I picked a number of those questions and incorporated them into the session. Mutembe, thank you for sharing the tool. We'll have a look at those, and if someone comes to us and say they want to talk to you, we'll definitely reference that to you. We'll post the video and we'll include your contacts. If you want, you can just put them on the chat, just in case someone wants to have a look at that. Yeah. In fact, someone says, where can I get you for expert advice? Mutembe, we are your AI. In this case, we are optimizing your sales process. So we'll get in touch for our commissions.
So let me just.
So Mutembe is going to type in his contacts, but we'll also share these as we put this online. We'll share this on our LinkedIn page, and you'll we'll tag him along on that, and you can be able to engage with him on that, and also on the YouTube page. But thank you very much, everybody, and looking forward to have you in the next 2 months. We do this every 2 months. Mutembe, people are asking, where can we get Mutembe? Where can we get Mutembe?
I don't know why, but I'm not being able to see how to send the message generally to.
Oh, there's a chat in the chat, but not to worry, Mutembe, I have your email address. Let me just, Lian, feel free to do that. No, there you go. I've typed Mutembe's email address here, mkaraoke@fastaga.com. You can reach him on that. He's also active on the socials. So feel free to also just hit him up on LinkedIn or Twitter, and he'll get in touch with you.
LinkedIn, Twitter. My Twitter is Muti PI6.
Let me just type it for people here. That's Muti PI.
Mutembe PI6.
PI6.
Yeah, Mutembe PI6.
At what? Just that.
Yeah, that's my Twitter. You can reach me easy.
Okay, so you can reach to Mutembe on that. I think probably you'll start with an AI before it gets to Mutembe, but it will feel like Mutembe.
Yeah, I still like the personal touch. I think actually, it's the same way that now, in other countries, right? You have fast fashion and you have the people who can make handmade leather stuff from Italy, and people will pay crazy for that, right? So now it will become, if you can build something for AI, it's cheaper, right? And if you something proper handmade, it will be more expensive.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mutembe. Thank you, everybody. We will close at this point. Mutembe will definitely have you once again just to continue this conversation.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's so natural talking to you. Thank you so much. Yeah. And thanks for everybody for making time to be on the call. I know yesterday was a holiday, so people are getting back into the week.
Asante sana. Cheers. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.